I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Okay, I feel like I say this all the time, but these conversations are like my favorite to have on the podcast. So I have a past panic to peace student with me. She actually first took my mini course on overcoming symptoms and panic attacks, and then she quickly jumped into my panic to peace program and she took the live version of the program. And so I'm just so excited for her to be here and share her story with you. And I know you're going to get so much helpful stuff out of this. So Mila, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Shannon. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I love these. I love these conversations. And it's just so interesting because I send out these emails, right? And I'm like, hey, do any of my students, past students, want to share their story on my podcast? And I don't typically get overwhelming amounts of responses, right? Because people are like, well, that's terrifying. That is so anxiety producing. And like you shared, right? This is anxiety producing, but I'm so proud of you and all my students who are like, yes, I want to share. I know it will help someone. And so I'm just so glad that you're here with me and willing and wanting to share it and pushing yourself, right? In many healthy ways to be vulnerable and to talk about it. So let's just start off with, when did you notice anxiety being something that was causing disruption in your life? Oh gosh, this is something I need to look at.
Okay, so I've lived with anxiety since I believe maybe like 5 or 6 years old. I mean, I remember being a little kid and just freaking out and feeling trapped and overwhelmed and unsafe, all those different feelings that you get. And as a kid, you don't know what it is. And I grew up in Europe. So, at that time over there, that was even more so not talked about. And it was just terrifying. And then, I came over here when I was 8 and culture shock, all these different things kind of piled on it. And yeah, I remember having panic attacks at oh gosh, I don't know if I was 9 or 10 years old. But again, I didn't know what they were. And they always came at night.
Oh,
And it was just terrifying. And it's been kind of up and down. And then fast forward to when I want to say like maybe 17, 18, it got pretty bad. I was reading books and I was kind of reaching out and trying to do what I needed to do for myself.
it's just so funny how so many people have this same experience. I experienced it as a young kid. I remember often feeling anxious, uneasy, scared,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what it was. And then fast forward, right, when you get in your teenage years and you're starting to be able to understand more, or you're feeling more and you're like, I got to do something about this. And a lot of us have just had that journey of trying to figure it out yourself, of okay, what is going on and how can I fix this? And that is so freaking hard, especially as a teenager. It's like you're supposed to just be a teenager living your life, right? Not having to figure out, how do I navigate this thing that is so overwhelming and impacting every aspect of my life?
Exactly. And I think a big part of it too, at least for me, was feeling like I'm some sort of a freak because no
Mm,
one else around me seemed to have that. It
yep.
seemed like I was the only one. And oh my gosh, I mean, my whole life, I've been told you're so sensitive, like stop it. And and that kind of makes you go into your shell. And on the outside, you're showing yourself as this, you're good, but inside you're freaking out. And then of course you do that long enough, and then it gets to a point where it does come out because it's got to bubble up. It's like a soda, right?
Yep.
Eventually the bubbles are going to spill out. And that's when, I would have so much shame, like an embarrassment and humiliation. And oh my gosh, this is happening in public and everyone's looking at me and I'm a freak. It's confirmed. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it was horrible.
Yeah, and that's such a shared experience too, right? Like feeling like I am the only one and there's absolutely no way that anyone else is experiencing this. So, when you were a teenager and you're like stuff really started to be a problem, what were things looking like then?
I call it like my first wave, big wave that kind
Yeah.
of happened when I was again around like 17, 18, around there. I just remember like I couldn't go anywhere. Everywhere I went, it was like panicky feelings. And I remember a group of my friends drove to the Jersey Shore and for vacation, and another friend and I drove to meet them for the weekend. And I remember, we're all hanging out, we're all drinking, it's a fun
Yeah.
time, and then I get a panic attack, and I remember, like, having to walk around the block to, like, calm myself down because when you're in the moment, it's like you don't know what to do with yourself,
Yep.
and it was just very, very, always restless, always needing to kind of do something. You can't just sit still. I was very productive, don't get me wrong, I was doing a lot. Very, very productive person.
Yeah.
And, some would say I was going places, but that was all anxiety ridden. That was all, that feeling of I'm not enough and I need to work harder. But then the harder I work, the more my body's like, stop. And it was
Yeah.
just that loop. And yeah, so it was tough. It was tough. And I think what ended up kind of helping was that eventually I did try medication at that point, and after a while, I was like, "This is not for me. I don't feel good." So I kinda, I let that go, and then, yeah, I just started, to do my own thing and reading books, and I turned to prayer. Prayer was a big thing for me, and, that spiritual,
Like connection.
connection or just I think because when I think of anxiety, I think it's you feel unsafe, right? Anxiety is fear, and a lot of the time when you're feeling fear, you feel unsafe. So what's the opposite of that? The opposite is trust. The opposite is just, okay, let's accept, let's trust. And that's kind of what prayer gave me. It gave me that sense of there's a higher power above me and I just need to do my best to trust that I'm gonna be okay, and the more I leaned into that, the more the symptoms started to kind of ease up a little bit, and there was, of course, a lot of thought work, and things like that, but that was kind of around that time how I handled it then, and then the next wave came in 2020, so
Oh, I mean, let's go there, obviously, it's, like, kinda like that analogy where you're like, "Let's ride the wave, let's
Mhm.
ride all these waves," but I think that too, it's such a common freaking experience, like, experiencing that anxiety and panic as a young kid, and then it really starts to come out in your teenage years because it's like you said, it's like the soda, like, it's gotta come out. And you just try to figure out at that point in your life, right, as a teenager, like, "What can I do to get rid of this? Like, what is gonna be the thing that's gonna be quick, easy, help me, like, I don't wanna struggle anymore." So, I mean, I'm so glad that there are things that you found that were helpful, but it sort of is like that shared experience for all of us. It can ease up and get better, and then before you know it, you're like, "Okay, and now here's another wave." Like, what the heck? So what was this wave in 2020? I think I can probably guess, but where
Yeah.
what is this one?
Yeah, yeah, I think a lot of us got hit with this wave. Well, for me personally, I think it was just a lack of introspection for many years, a lack of listening to myself, a lack of listening to my body and all the signs that my body was giving me. It's like they say your body will whisper before it screams. and my body was whispering for many years. So it's kind of like the way I imagine it is, I was 18, 19. I kind of got over that hump. I went to a naturopath. She gave me natural vitamins. Turns out I was really deficient in vitamin D, and that's kind of what helped me a lot. Little things like that to now, I'm so good. It's like, okay, I quote unquote got over it, or, I fixed it. And then it's like, let me just go back to what I was doing before, which was a lot of what I was doing was drinking,
Yep.
going out, doing all the things, and let's just not worry about it.
Not feeling.
Exactly. So it's that. It's like, let's just be distracted. Let's go out. I'm having fun, like some weekends it was, and don't get me wrong, I love those times. I had a great time. But all in all, it kind of eventually got to a point where 2019 came around, and I remember driving to see my friend who lived about a half hour away. He was my best friend. He lived across the street, and then he moved further away. And I remember driving to his house, and I got to his house, and my hands were really clammy and sweaty. And I remember kinda being like, "Oh, this is so weird." Like, I never get sweaty hands. Usually I'm, like, cold,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "I'm sweating." And he's like, "Oh, it's probably nothing." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. It's probably nothing." And then over time, it's like the sweaty hands, and then here and there, I'm, like, a little shaky, and then, it's everything just kinda started piling up. Later on, I was working. I worked in the field, in basically what you could say social work, so that was very demanding.
Yeah.
And then I went to, for my graduate studies in, marriage and family therapy, and then the world shut down.
Yep.
And it was
This is that
just
this is that wave that many people experienced.
Yup, but it was like I really wanted to kind of touch upon the fact that it was building for me. It
Yep.
wasn't like, 2020 came around and then boom, we're all quarantined, or we're all, quote unquote trapped. It was more like for me it was building, I just wasn't listening. And then little by little, a little something happened here, something happened there, and my body and my mind and everything just couldn't handle it. And it literally got to a point where I was driving through a huge bridge in New York, and I had a panic attack right on the bridge, and midway, I was shaking. It was it was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. I've had panic attacks before, but this was different. This was like, there's other people around, you're driving. Like, all of a sudden, the bridge and everything just became so big and intimidating, and you're on top of what I have a fear of heights anyway, so I'm like, "Oh my god." So then my partner, my now fiancé at the time, well, now he's my fiancé, but my fiancé took over. We literally pulled over in the middle of the bridge, and I was like, "You gotta take over, I can't do this." And that's kind of how it all started. So um, yes, I got that big panic attack, and for, like, about a year, I still pushed myself to drive. The only difference is that I had a panic attack each time, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. Everyone was telling me, "Just push through it. You're fine, you're fine." And then, it's, "Oh my gosh, we're sitting in traffic. I'm gonna have a panic attack." And then you start freaking out, and then
Yep.
you put the AC on, and you're like, "Okay, what else am I gonna do?" The amount of times I pulled over, I can't even tell you, because I just couldn't. I felt like I physically couldn't drive, and it just got to a point where I couldn't do anything at all. I had to leave my job, I have to leave my school, I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't even sit as a passenger, and it got to the point where I was completely agoraphobic. It
Yeah.
just all but again, I think the underlying point for me here is it all was leading there, I just wasn't listening. I was not in tune. I was kind of listening to all the, what everyone was telling me, just suck it up, keep doing it. A lot of it was, those quick fixes, quick distractions. Somebody once told me to eat sour candy because of the little things like that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my body was screaming like, stop. And then it just got to the point where, yeah, my whole world fell apart in that moment.
Oh my gosh. It's just so good. Like, people need to hear this. And this is a big reason why I was like, yes, you need to come share your story because you had so much introspection, right? You were like, okay, this has been building for a while, right? And I haven't been listening. My body has been trying to tell me. And a lot of times this is the case. Like, we are not listening. We are just like, what quick fixes can I throw at it? What can I do to get rid of it? Like, forget even trying to understand it, being curious about it, acknowledging it, like, just get rid of it. And that obviously creates so many problems, but it also makes sense. Like, of course, you just want to get rid of it. But I'm so glad that you went inward and you're like, okay, this has been building for a while. This is not just coming out of nowhere, right? This is not just COVID. I think a lot of those big life events, stressful events, even happy life events can really like cause us to have that tipping point of like, no, 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 you can't keep ignoring this. Like, because now I'm just going to scream all the time. And getting to that place where you experience panic on a bridge while driving, right? And your brain starts to tell you all those stories of this is dangerous, right? This is really bad. And of course, you started pulling away and limiting and restricting. And like, this makes sense. And I always tell people, like, you've got to be gentle with yourself because it makes sense that you're doing all of this. And when you're in it, it's so hard to have any healthy response because you're like, I just want to live, right? I can't experience this. So when you found yourself in this place, you start restricting and limiting and pulling away from a lot, and you said, like, completely agoraphobic. What did that mean? Like, what did that actually look like, being completely agoraphobic?
Shortly after I left my job, I actually ended up moving in with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my fiancé, but we ended up moving in together, which I took as, our next step in our relationship, but also a good way for me to kind of, maybe get out of, what I was in because I used to live with my parents in a small little bedroom. I felt like talk about feeling trapped. You literally are working, going to school and living out of one tiny bedroom, So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have more space and we can also take our relationship to the next level. Like, it's all great. It's going to be great. So we moved out. This was at the beginning of the year. And I mean, he has a very demanding work schedule. He works very long hours. And we moved out. And I mean, oh my goodness, first week here by myself, like 11 hours a day by myself.
Wow.
No furniture because we just moved in. We had barely anything, not even a TV. The whole house is a mess because there's boxes everywhere, so, I mean, talk about anxiety, and then it's like I'm trapped. I don't like, you're trapped, you don't know what to do with yourself, but then you can't leave because going outside is even scarier. I mean, I remember, like, walking to the mailbox, which was right next to my apartment, literally, like, 5 steps, and I remember having to, like, hype myself up. And then as I was walking those 5 steps, I would start to get dizzy. I would start to get panicky. I would start to shake a little bit. I couldn't even go to the mailbox. And then I would run back home, and then it's like I'm trapped. And it was just such a catch-22 because you wanna leave because you feel so trapped, but then you can't leave because that's too scary. And it was literally the hardest thing I've ever experienced. First of all, I don't think anyone knew. I think I'm pretty good at, putting on a
Yep.
and just kinda, like, keeping up appearances type of thing and not, or even if you do share with people a little bit, they don't q most people don't quite understand. So it was very lonely. It was very isolating on top of that. So it's not that I was physically alone. It was also, like, I really felt like nobody understood. It goes back to that whole feeling of, like, I'm not normal. This isn't normal. Something's really wrong with me.
Yeah.
Um all these very, very painful thoughts, very painful feelings. That's why when I found your community one day, I remember I was scrolling through Instagram and you popped up and I'm like, oh my God, she gets it. Wait a minute.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
started looking at your videos and I'm like, oh my God, she gets it. She gets it.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge pivotal turning point for me because that's when I started to feel like, okay, maybe I'm not that much of a freak. There's
Yep.
other freaks out there too. Okay. There's other people. going through it too. And then that's kind of how, like, I did your first course. And then, I started to kind of look at that was so comforting. So,
Yeah,
so comforting in a moment, in a period of time where no one understood. I think a lot of people tried, they just couldn't. And you can't unless you're in it.
exactly. It's so hard to understand, and I think so many of us, you're not really looking for people to understand per se. Like, yes, it would be great if everyone understood, right? But what you're really wanting is that, like, empathy just to be heard and to be seen. But like you're saying, so many of us, when you're in it, you're hiding it. You're not sharing it with people. You don't want people to see that. There's so much shame. And that's something that, of course, we dive deep into in the program because, like, that is a big layer for a lot of people that's covering up a lot of the stuff. And you've got to work through that shame and allow yourself to get support and to be seen and heard and all of that. But let's go back because this is, like, wild, right? But it makes so much sense. You moved in with your boyfriend and you're like, "Okay, this will probably be better." And now you're finding, "Shit, I am by myself for hours and hours. I don't have any trust and really feel safe within myself, and going out feels impossible. Being in here feels awful." Like, what did you do? How did you work through this?
So during that time, I just remember trying to keep busy. I cried a lot. I freaked out a lot. I had a lot of panic attacks. And I just kept busy. I kept trying. I mean, my house was so spotless because all I did was clean because that was at least something I could control. And I would
Yep.
clean and, like, get it. Like, I would spend like, not days, but I mean hours and hours and hours organizing and cleaning and, like, obvious. And then I remember when we got our TV delivered and I had to let the guys come in and set up the TV, I almost nearly had a panic attack while they were here because the thoughts in my head were so like, "You're gonna lose control, you're gonna do something stupid, you're gonna say something stupid, and you're gonna be humiliated, and you're gonna feel, just crazy things." And it was fine, nothing happened, thankfully.
Right.
But it
Imagine
was
that, yeah.
but the difference between then and now is, like you mentioned before, it's the lack of self-trust. It's the lack of, "I'm gonna be okay no matter what." And at that point, it was like I was, just swimming in this, like, idea that, like, keep up your appearances. Do not let anybody see that you're struggling. Do not let anybody see that, you're going through this. And it was that because of pride, it was because of shame, it was because of, that fear of exposure, but also or in judgment, right? But it was also kinda like this feeling of, like, they're not gonna help you anyway. They're just gonna make you feel even worse. They're gonna laugh at you so it's kinda like it was weird because it's like you're trying to protect yourself from others, assuming that you don't know how people are gonna react, but you always have those negative thoughts that are there that are like, people are not gonna understand, they're not gonna it's just horrible, and again, it was a constant catch-22, and with myself, the kind of person I am is I'd like to think that I'm very, like, objective, so I always see both sides, I see 4 sides, I see 6 sides. True, it's like all of these different sides are just well, there's this, but then there's that, but then, what else could be true? And it's, like, constant. And it just got to the point where, yeah, I literally just prayed. A lot of my days, I was alone by myself, and I listened to music. Music is a natural dopamine booster. So I'm like, okay, let's listen to music. Let's try to force ourselves into a good mood. Cause I mean, somebody told me a quote once, what comes first, the smile or the good mood? So I'm like, trying to get myself into a good mood, like,
Yeah.
and like smile and just anything to kind of get myself out of that isolated, deeply, deeply painful, lonely state. I always say it's hard when you have support and it's even harder when you don't.
Yeah, no, I think you're hitting on so many things, and I always try to, like, rein myself in to not go off on too many tangents, but something that I keep hearing, right, is something that a lot of us experience. It's this learned behavior that we've had since probably childhood, right? Of don't feel, right? Like feelings are really big and we don't need to talk about them. And you just push through it and you're okay and everything's going to be okay. And just stop being so sensitive and like all these things. And you carry that for so long until you actually learn you need to unpack it. And then you need to learn how to unpack that and how to be vulnerable and how to ask for help and how to have that self compassion. And like, these are all things that we go into in the program because this is a lot of stuff that none of us learned. Like, we have no freaking clue how to let people see us, how to, because we haven't even let ourselves see us.
Exactly.
Like, we haven't felt for so long, right? We don't even know how to meet ourselves with our emotions. So how the heck are we gonna let somebody else meet us with our emotions? And the other thing I love that you shared, right, is you were just like, "Okay, let me keep busy," right? "I'm gonna clean, I'm gonna organize, I'm gonna do all the things to distract."
Don't think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it, and hopefully I won't feel, and this is what so many people do, and, of course, you probably knew at the time, even with your journey and with how much, inner work that you had done, that that wasn't helpful because, of course, you're doing all this stuff so that you don't feel, and when you do this for years, weeks, it builds, right? And it's like, it's gotta come out. So I'm curious, you are at home, like really deeply in this agoraphobic place. What comes next? Like what did you do?
So I started applying to jobs. I haven't worked for a few months at that point, and I needed something remote because I couldn't go out. So it needed to be remote. And I remember a friend of mine worked in HR, and I'm like, oh, let me try HR. It's kind of, you still work with people, but it's a little bit different, but you still kind of work with people. I love working with people. So that was my thing. So I got a certification. I went to school, got certified for yeah, in HR, got my management certification, and then I ended up finding a job. So that kind of kept me busy. Meanwhile, I mean, during that whole time of me getting the certificate and that was an ongoing process. I got it after like a year, but I was going to classes. But as I was working, the anxiety was there. I mean, I remember having to go into the meetings on camera and oh my God, I would
Yeah.
have like a meltdown every time. I would be like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this. Anytime I could, I would keep my camera off.
Yeah.
Try to survive, try not to, let too many people think anything, see anything, just keep going, just keep going. But yeah, but over time, I think it just ended up being, it got a little better and then, it was waves, I
Yeah.
guess. So it eventually got to a point where I got another job and then, that kept me busy. But in the meantime, a huge, huge part for me that really helped me was I just turned to like online coaching. I've tried therapy and a lot of the therapists it didn't feel like they understood. So I never went with it. And I turned to online coaching programs, your program, other programs where I can kind of take, even it was, a different topic, I can still take the but, the teachings and apply it to my own self. And over time, it's like, I was reading books. I mean, literally anything I could get my hands on. Went to a naturopath, did the whole naturopathic way, trying to, maybe I need vitamins, maybe
Yeah.
just everything and anything I could get my hands on. And journaling became something that really was a huge, huge factor for me in getting better because it's
Yeah.
not only you get it out, but also, I would go back and reread it, and I would be like, "Wow, is this really what I'm thinking? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy." Like, and then you kinda coach yourself through it. And then meditation. I love EFT tapping. It's like the mind and the body connection. Like, yeah, I just literally tried everything and anything I could because I had the time, but a lot of it was your nervous system work. That was a lot. That was a huge part for me is the nervous system work.
I mean, of course, when you're in it, right, you're willing and wanting to do anything, especially when you have those like type A, quality is the I'm gonna push, I'm gonna do, like, just tell me what to do, I'll do it. And it sounds like, of course, that's definitely you and many people that I work with. It's like, I will do my way out of this. But what we often find, right, is there's no amount of doing that gets me out of the feeling. And I really have to stop trying to avoid feeling,
Exactly.
which is really
Mhm.
hard and really scary. And so I guess I'm curious, what prompted you? What were you like, I'm going to join Panic to Peace. I'm going to try this.
Yeah, so my partner at the time was actually traveling to see his family for a month, and we had just gotten a new dog. And I just remember thinking this is gonna be the first time my whole life that I'm actually alone. And I can't drive. I don't have a car. I mean, we did have a car. I couldn't drive. I can barely step outside, but I have to kind of figure something out because my dog has to go to the bathroom and I have to take him for walks and so all these different things. And so when I saw your program, I was like, okay, like this is a community that they understand, they've been there. And I also kind of, I guess, looked at it as, this is a great opportunity for me to kind of lean into all of this alongside of being in your program and just kind of take what you teach and try to apply it. And I remember one day you were talking about, I don't know if it was somebody in the group, but somebody was mentioning about driving. And you mentioned for them to just go sit in the car and just sit and, like, put on a timer or whatever, just sit with your feelings. And even if you feel a panic attack coming on, like baby steps. And I had to go out to my partner's car at least once a week because of his, you got to turn on the car. And it was dead of almost winter. So it was
Yep.
cold. And it's like, yo, you got to go turn on my car. And I'm like, I don't know if I can, but then I'm like, I have to do it. I don't want to mess up his car. So I would go to his car and sit there for literally 2 minutes and just panic, like sheer panic. And I would run back home. I would take out my dog for a walk and, like, midway have a panic attack and run crying home with him. And when I had, and your booklet and I would definitely reference your lessons and the things you would say in there and just kind of, I think for me, it was a lot of the comfort of knowing that I'm just not alone in this. I think that was the biggest part, which also helped me get through that time. Is like, okay,
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but you're not alone. There's a whole community out there that's doing this. There's other people that are going through it.
Yeah, it's so funny because I was just talking, I feel like this is probably was the episode before this one, but I was just talking about this where people join Panic to Peace, and I always have at least 1 or 2 people each round that are like, "This is what I needed. I just needed to know that I'm not alone. Other people are experiencing this. I'm not weird, crazy, broken. Like, this stuff actually makes sense." And that in and of itself can be incredibly healing. And I think also paired with just finally letting yourself be seen and have some acceptance, right, for where you're at and what's happening, and to take away some of those layers of that judgment and shame and like beating yourself up for it. Because I always say it absolutely makes sense how you got to this spot, and it's okay. No, like nobody wants to be in this spot, right, where they feel like they don't have any trust or safety, they can't go anywhere or do anything. But like it is okay, and you need to allow yourself to be compassionate with yourself for where you're at. So I think, yeah, you got so much out of just knowing, like, it's not just me. There's actually, I don't know how many people were in your group, but probably at least 40 people. And it's like there are 40 other people who are experiencing very similar things to me. And you just started to take some of those really small steps and let yourself see, okay, maybe I can do this, right? Maybe I can allow myself to feel. And it's such a beautiful thing. Hard, so freaking hard.
Very hard.
So,
Yeah.
what was it like moving through all of that? Like, it's one thing to sign up for the program, right? But it's like to then actually do the work that you need to do.
100%. It's like I'm sick and tired of this. Because I mean, at that point, it was quite a while that it was holding on. So I think I only got through like the first 2 lessons. I don't even remember going through anymore. I just remember kind of, again, it's that like comforting feeling of, again, like you're not alone. You can always reference, you can always go back, you have a Facebook group. I would check in there and I could see other people sharing their struggles, and it's like, "Oh my god, I can totally relate to this." And then, you're having a good day because that's the other part of it is living with anxiety and panic and agoraphobia, you have good days. You have bad days, but you also have good days. And on the good days, right, you do feel a little stronger, you can go in and help someone else, and then on your lower days, someone else can help you. So I really, really appreciated that, and I valued that. And then after that, I think it was just your whole concept of literally a healthy push, just a little bit of a push. Like, you don't have to go from 0 to 100. Why don't you go from like 0 to 1? And then tomorrow you can try going from 1 to 2. Let's, and I think I just kept applying the same thought for myself, when I would go out with my dog for a walk and, okay, let me try to take him here and, not too far away. Because with anxiety,
Right.
that's another thing, right? It's like you don't wanna go too far. You gotta be closer to, to home. And, I would take him, okay, and then the next day, I'm like, "Okay, let's go a few steps further." And little by little, you start to kind of also gain that confidence in yourself, and that's how you build self-trust. And I think over time, that's how I built my self-trust, is just kinda pushing myself through those hard moments where I think I'm not gonna make it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those times I did have panic attacks, and it was scary. But, you come out of it and you're like, "Oh, okay. It is what it is," you know? But it's a lot of it is definitely, like, I don't wanna undermine the thought work that you have to put in. Getting to the root cause of why things are happening, understanding why they're happening, and then you're able to kind of, accept it and then heal from it. Otherwise, you're just kinda going against it, and, you're just resisting and resisting. And for me, a lot of my panic and anxiety came from not only this intense self-criticism, self-judgment, but also that fear of exposure, of others judging me, of feeling humiliated. It's almost like I gave my whole power away to everyone else, and literally, that's what it felt like. And now, I don't wanna say I'm on the other side of it because I still deal with it, but now it's different. Now it's come to the point where I'm like, "You know what? If somebody's gonna think something, let them. Like, whatever, who cares?" Like, you just kinda it's so strange because when I think back to those times, I'm like, "Why did I worry so much about what other people thought?" It makes no sense to me today, but at that moment, that's what happened, and it's hard, and it's definitely something that I have some friends now that are going through a lot of, anxiety, and I say to them, like, "You gotta do the work. You can't just take the Sour Patch Candy or the gum or the fan to help you get through the symptoms. You gotta do the work too, because it all goes hand in hand."
That root really is such a significant part. Like, why does my body, right, keep throwing me these little whispers in the form of sensations and symptoms? Like, why does this keep happening? What are my patterns? Like, how am I responding to it? I think such a big thing that you're talking about too, that has been a really big part of your journey is allowing yourself to be seen and allowing yourself to have emotions. And that gets a lot easier when you start, really doing that inner work and letting yourself feel and changing the stories that you're telling yourself about it and having that self compassion with yourself because it's a lot easier to say, fuck it, I don't care. Like, people can see me anxious, people can see me panic when you're okay with it and when you're okay with you.
Yes,
And
100%.
yeah, and that's such a big piece of it. I think, like, you have been really hitting on this throughout our conversation, but so much of how we heal our relationship with anxiety is deeper than anxiety. It's not just like letting yourself feel and all that stuff. It's really about like, who am I? And how do I see myself? And how do I build that trust within myself? And how do I really build more confidence, right? And have this knowing that I have the safety within me. It's not a place, situation, a thing, or anything that's going to give that to me. Like, I can build this. And this is all the work that you started to do, and it's just so beautiful when people start to do this work and they see, "Oh, shit. This is what I've been missing," right? Like, it's not the quick fixes, it's this deeper inner work.
I think it's definitely like anxiety is a symptom. I always say anxiety, depression, anything, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of something really, really deep that we are ignoring, we are avoiding, we're not even aware of. I mean, so many of us go through life completely um, just unaware of what we're feeling, what we're
Mhm.
going through. And I'm not a therapist, but I don't want to get all therapy, but like going through your traumas, your big trauma, little things that, in the past that might have happened that led you to where you are now, unpacking that and getting curious, leaning into it, and kind of getting curious. And I think for me though, that's literally what happened. And I was forced to sit there and literally face it, face everything that I've been running away from. Because I was one of those people that, like, my family members say, "Oh, you were everywhere." Like, you were like Tigger from Pooh, like, you were everywhere. I was everywhere, I was, like and it literally went from me being super social and going out and everything to I'm by myself and I'm just facing all the thoughts, all the feelings and everything, and I think leaning into it is what's important and not being afraid of running away, not being afraid of it.
Yeah. I think so much of what we've talked about is this disconnection. Like, and I see this with so many of my students and clients, you're just so disconnected from yourself and your emotions, and you've gotta come back to you, and you've gotta build that trust and that safety and get that connection back, and when you do, it makes feeling and facing the hard stuff so much easier. And so I think that's just such a beautiful takeaway. I mean, there's been so many throughout this conversation, but I am just curious, Mila, if somebody is where you were, where they're like deeply struggling to even get outside the house, right? To take a step to do the thing. Do you have any words that you would share with that person or like some wisdom that they might need to hear?
I think I would say definitely, again, lean into it. I think truly put down your defenses, in the moment, you don't have to expose yourself to others, to the world. Do it by yourself in your bedroom. Lean into it. Take a notebook, start journaling, take your laptop, start get all those thoughts and feelings out. Work with a therapist, anybody that can, that you can trust, that can kind of help you along the journey, because doing it alone is hard. Um, but yeah, lean into it. Just don't run away from it, because the more you run, the more it's going to be there. It's like, you know, wherever you go, there you are. I don't know who said that, but it literally, like, wherever you go, there you are. So it's like the sooner you lean into it, the sooner you work through it, and the sooner you accept yourself and know that this isn't your identity. This isn't who you are. This is just, you know, a little bump in the road.
Yeah.
Keep showing up. And eventually, a few years later, you're going to look back and you're gonna be like, oh, yeah, that's not me. It was just a little bump in the road. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love everything that you shared. I think for you, you are like a smaller percentage of my Panic to Few students who are like, I only took a few sessions. I didn't need them all. Like I got what I needed in those first few, but it's so beautiful too when people get that because it's like, yeah, you've been trying for so long to do things a certain way. You haven't been supported. You have been isolated. Like, and just that community, just those people behind you is so incredibly helpful, and I have students every round who will say, "Shannon, I just liked the community aspect, like, I didn't even think I would like that, I didn't think I would need that," and that's the thing that I enjoyed the most, and I just wanna say in here too, since my community is completely off of Facebook, thank God, it's not on social media at all, it's in its own little app. It's off of any social media, and it's just very healthy and a really good space. So I just have to throw that in there because if anyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's on social media," I get it. I would have been like, "Run for the hills." But yeah, just having that space where you do feel understood and heard and seen, it goes such a long way in helping you to heal your relationship with yourself and with anxiety. Can you share just a little bit, like, where are you today? I'm assuming you're not completely agoraphobic. I'm assuming things look different. Like, how are things looking for you?
Yeah, so, I'm still not 100% driving. I did drive 2 weeks ago, and I ended up having a so my fiancé got this huge F-150 truck. So there I am, that's all I have. So I'm working with it. I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna work with it." So I'm driving along, and, just randomly in this one spot, I started, panic. I hadn't had a panic attack in months and months.
Yeah.
And I just got a panic attack, and I remember as I was driving, I'm like, "Okay, just keep going, do not pull over. Whatever you do, do not pull over. Just keep going. Keep going, you'll make it through." And I told myself, like, "If you pull over, that's it. Like, you're gonna go back to square one." That was kind of the thoughts I had, and I kept going, I kept driving. So, I'm definitely getting back out there. I can go anywhere, really. I don't really have again, I mean, knock on wood, but I don't really have any of those feelings that I've had before, where, like, for example, I would go to, TJ Maxx and then run away because I was having a panic attack in the middle of the store. Literally, like, my life has changed so much, and I can take my dog for a walk, and something to underline is I still get anxious. I still have my, like, glimmers of panic, but in those moments, I'm now able to kinda own it and be like, "You know what? I'm owning it. Yeah, I am feeling really panicky right now. I wonder where that's coming from." And I just
Yep.
kinda have this conversation with myself, like, "Okay, what am I really worried about here?" And then it's fine, just keep going. And, sometimes it is really bad, and it kind of just is with you for a while before it really goes away, but the whole point is that dialogue you have with yourself and just kinda cheering yourself on and, again, owning it. Own it. That's, like, one of my biggest, I think, lessons that I've kind of learned for myself too, is just own it. Don't judge it, don't try to explain it away.
Yeah. No, that is so helpful. I love that. I just appreciate you so much coming on and sharing your story. And these are always so helpful. It's just like that validation, right? And you're not alone. And other people are going through the same stuff. And of course, having that sense of community is so incredibly helpful. And just getting support. Like, I know for years, I just tried to do things by myself, like you, right? Like you read all the books, you try all the things, and it just I think back and I'm like, had I had a community, like, had I had a program, like, I know I wouldn't have struggled for years and, well, over a decade. So, it's, like, just really incredible to watch you and your journey and to now have you on and, like, see that things are very different, and I'm just so, so happy for you and proud of you, and so thank you again for coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks so much for having me and for your time, and again, for everything that you do. I thank your community and just all the work that you and the soul you put into this. I think it's helping a lot of people, whether they come forward or not. I hope more will come forward and share their stories. You've been a major part of the changes that I've made in my life and to become better and to heal, just because of the fact that you decided to have a community of people that were so like-minded, that had been going through the same things that I was. That was huge for me. So I really thank you and I appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you, and that's exactly why I do everything that I do. So, thank you. I appreciate you so much. I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.